Hi, I'm Jennifer Janish, owner of Adored Salon and Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair Extensions. I'm obsessed with curly hair. I cut it, style it, and extend it, and this podcast is all about my curly girl obsessions that stretch far beyond just curly hair. Hey, it's me, Jennifer, from the Curly Girls Obsessions, which you are listening to right now. Jennifer behind the chair as a hairstylist. Jennifer, the salon owner of Adored Salon, Jennifer, the founder and creator of Adored Signature Hand Tied Hair Extensions, and Jennifer, the educator. I know those are a lot of topics, or should I say titles? I'm also Jennifer, the wife, and Jennifer, the mom, Jennifer, the daughter, Jennifer, the sister, Jennifer, the family member, Jennifer, the friend, right? And all those things come in time. My last podcast, if you haven't listened to it yet, you might want to go back and listen to it, especially if you're a mom or if you're someone who wants to start something. And I'm not going to go into the logistics of the entire podcast, but it is kind of a reframe of your mind. And today's topic is going to be about the same thing because there are so many times in our life where we start something and we get scared, right? And that's why I listed all those titles because one, they didn't all come to me at once. It was a progression over time. Two, each one, if I would have thought of them as the whole, all those titles, it would seem extremely overwhelming, right? And I would have never done probably well, I can't say I if I would have thought of them as the whole that I would have never done any of them because I'm here because I thought of them, but it didn't all happen at once. And I heard this quote last week that really sat well with me after I did that podcast. And it's every marathon starts with the first mile. That first mile could be 14 minutes. And if you're a really good runner, which I'm not in the sense of physically running, and I really don't ever aspire to be, but if you're a really good runner, it could take 4 minutes to complete a mile. But the distance in which you finish is just the 1 mile, right? Every marathon begins with the first mile. Some miles could be 14 minutes and some could be 4 minutes, but no matter what, the distance is the same. So if I look at the picture as a whole, all of those titles, that mile definitely seems 14 minutes. Fuck, it might even seem like 30 minutes, right? And if you're me running a mile, probably would be 30 minutes because I'm not running it, I'm walking it. um, but with that just being said, I'm not a runner in physical process, right? In thought process, I do tend to be a bit of a runner or the type of person that jumps feet first into things. And I think, like everybody, like you loved the idea of it all, right? And then you get knee deep and you're kind of like, oh shit, what did I do to myself? Is this really where I want to be? Is this the path that I want to take? And um, it's kind of, it's not kind of, it actually is you have to have a belief in yourself to keep going. Now let's take this to simple terms because I feel like a lot of us can relate to this, right? When you're young, Disney has sold us this amazing story of what life is going to look like if you're a girl watching this, right? And it, I guess, too, if you're a guy, because if you're a guy, you're the prince, you're the knight in shining armor, right? And if you're the girl, Disney has sold us all this princess fairy tale that if you just meet the guy that's the knight in shining armor, it's all going to be perfect, right? And so when you're young, a lot of the times as a little girl, you think, okay, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have so many children. My life is going to be perfect. And this is how it's all going to be laid out. And as you all know, that is a crock of shit. And sometimes you have to live through it to understand it. And some of you are actually going through it to learn it, right? And it's the same with everything in life. When you first think of it, it seems like that princess fairy tale, right? Like you're like, oh, let's just take, for instance, the salon. Like when I first started with the salon, I was like, I'm gonna paint it this color. The floors are gonna look like this. The stations are gonna be this way. The walls are gonna be this color. But there was very little thought to the systems and processes involved in making it a well-oiled machine. Same like life as a mom, when you dream up of what that wedding's going to be and how many kids you're going to have, you think that you're going to spend every day with those kids looking your best, feeling your best, taking them to do, arts and crafts or the zoo. And, the days that you go to the zoo, it's never going to be 95 degrees and 1,000% humidity. And you're not going to be tired and crabby. Everybody is going to love looking at the lions that are hiding up in the rocks because they're also dying of heat, right? Like that's just not the picture you paint for yourself when you're in the start of a journey. And the truth is like when you're in the start of the journey, it all looks fine and beautiful. But when you get into it, you're the person who's responsible to keep showing up for yourself. And in that podcast last week, I talk about a family vacation where a lot of things were chaotic. A lot of things in my mind's eye kind of went wrong, right? Like, and why did I think that they went wrong? I felt like they went wrong because it wasn't the picture that I painted for weeks on end when I was planning this beautiful trip with my family, right? I didn't anticipate being exhausted from the drive. I didn't anticipate really cooking for 10 people and what that would be like, or grocery shopping for them, for God's sakes. I did not anticipate a visit to the ER because my kids were older. I'm like, okay, we're over this. But the minute that you tell yourself you're past something is the minute that God's like, let's spice this up. He doesn't want you to get bored, right? So as we move through that vacation, I really had to tell myself, like, don't ruin this all. Don't burn it down to the ground because you worked really hard to get here. Even if it's not as perfect as you wanted it to be, you worked really hard to get here. And I just don't give up on things, at least easily. And I discuss in there how I had to manifest the moment on the beach in the morning with my coffee, the sunsets with my tea at night, the dinners with my family, even though it took a lot of work to get there, it just enjoying the conversation, not worrying about the cleanup, not worrying about the this or the that. Whereas in the beginning, I kind of was. And so as we discuss like life and that big picture of all of those titles and how to get there, the 14-minute mile versus the 4-minute mile, a lot of us will tend to build something because on the front end, it looks great and it looks fun. And then when you get into it, it gets scary and it gets hard. And then sometimes people will burn it down to the ground just for that sake. They're like, I just don't want to keep going. And if you're a mom with children and you're in that, you don't have that option to burn it down, right? At least physically blow it up and get rid of it, right? You have to keep going because your children, your husband, your family life depends on you to keep it there. And so when you're in it, you will potentially feel burnt out. Like you're just so exhausted because you're running on empty and you're trying to make everything happen. And you're to the point where some days you're like, I just can't keep doing this anymore. It feels like Groundhog's Day. I remember that. I remember that being a mom. I remember that in the beginning of my business. I remember that in the beginning of Adored Salon. I remember that being in the beginning of Jennifer the hairstylist. Like you go through the motions to get the thing built up, and then it becomes a thing. And then all of a sudden, it becomes a really hard thing because you're not in the fun of doing the things to make the thing. It's like one of my friends who owns a salon said this to me. It's really was a great like reflection that she had being a business owner now. I think she has owned the salon. It's like 4 years. And she's like, everybody's so excited for you in the beginning. And it's the same as being a mom. Like everybody's so excited for you in the beginning and getting married. Everybody's so excited for you in the beginning. But what they don't talk about is the maintenance to keep it as one alive, the hard part, right? And all of those things, your mind from the burnout, your building your dream, be it the family, the business, um, the maintenance that keeps that thing alive is so much more than the start. And it's the same with cars, it's the same with houses. Like, again, I mean, I don't even have to repeat myself for all of you to be like, yep, that is 100% true. But when once you keep showing up and you do get to that state of boredom, right? Like you're like, I'm either burnt out or I'm bored. The burnout is when you're exhausted, like I said before. The boredom is just that it just doesn't seem aligned with that original dream you created because the maintenance of it all is just kind of boring. And so when I get in those stages, right? And I'm going to give you a couple scenarios through my life personally and professionally where I found myself just utterly feeling burnt out and what I had to do to get out of it. And a lot of the times when people sit in my chair for a hair appointment, they do ask me a lot of business questions. And I think it is because they've seen me run Adored Salon pretty successfully for now 12 and a half years, which is mind blowing to me, right? My career has been 36 years, mind blowing to me. Um, and it, I've stayed in the same path, right? The same type of profession that long. And I think that people respect it because they understand the build and the burn, the build and the burn, the burnout and the boredom of just the life cycles in general. So a lot of the times they're like, how the hell did you even do this for this long? So in my personal life, I do remember like the fairy tale of getting married and having children. And as you guys know, I have four of them, and they are age range 7 years apart in total. And that was definitely not easy. But when I was in it, right, when I was in the mode of having my children, it was kind of like, this is what you do at this stage of life, right? And I do remember being tired, and I do remember a lot of the times I feeling like Groundhog's Day. And I really did have to do a lot of soul searching. I think I may have been depressed. I think I would be lying if I said I wasn't, because in reflection, I I wasn't like, I mean, I didn't, my kids will say, like, "Do you miss when we were little?" And I'll tell them, I don't miss when you were little. I enjoy every stage. I'm not the type of mom that's going to cry because my kid has graduated kindergarten, because kindergarten was fun, but kindergarten also came with its challenges. So, like, let's just move forward and enjoy what we had. And let's look forward to what is coming and what today brings. And I think when you go into it with that kind of mindset, it's going to make it better for you. Um, and you will find solutions to problems. Like when you have four kids, you're going to relive those kindergarten moments four times. Maybe I did cry when Brad Jr. left kindergarten because I had no idea what was next. But with each subsequent child, it became easier, right? I think that makes it seem a little bit easier, right? Like you're not just out there throwing yourselves to the wolves, right? Like, school is school. But the challenges that I always had, and this is one that really comes up strong for me with my family, was, we all had the witching hour when your kids were little, and it's usually between like 3:30 to bedtime. And when do we eat dinner? You eat dinner between usually 5 and 6 when your kids are little or you're on a routine. So making dinner just became one of these things for me that I dreaded. I absolutely dreaded it because not only was it, the grocery shopping, the planning of the meal. I suck at planning meals. I just do. And if I could do it over again, I really wish I would have been a little bit more organized with it. And I would have set aside time. But I always felt like I just didn't have enough time to even think about creating more time to prepare. Right. And so the meals would come. Odds are two people would usually hate it. Someone didn't like the vegetables, someone didn't like this, that. There was a fight at dinner because someone wasn't eating or someone was crying. And here we had Brad at the end of the table who had been away for most of the day. And he was like, "Okay, we're all going to eat this meal." And then someone would start crying. The baby would be in the swing crying. The dogs would be around the table begging for food as usual, right? Like all the things. And all I remember at that time was like, oh, just give me some peace and silence. Like, and now I should have let the one who didn't want the meal eat the cereal for dinner. I should have let the one who was like, "I'm not even hungry." Just, okay, fine. Like, was it going to hurt us? No. But we had this vision of what that perfect sit down meal would look like. And we were going to make it happen by hook or by crook. Right. And now, like I said, when I think about it, it really wasn't like this perfect blank canvas that we were going to drop paint colors on and it was going to look like the beautiful Picasso at the end of the day, right? Like it was just freaking dinner. And I think there too was always a lot of pressure on me to cook. My mother-in-law like loved to cook and set up meals. Like that's how she really showed like her love for her family was through food a lot. My mom was different. My dad worked nights and we would eat breakfast for dinner. She was like, "Okay, easy night, easy dinner." My mom wasn't like a big planning or preparing person when it came to meals because the food was just kind of like this byproduct of our day. And that's how I was raised. And my mother in law had so much emphasis on food being so important to her. And she tried to push that onto me. And please, I do believe that food is important. But, when someone does things that drive you crazy, you're like, yeah, I really don't care about it. And it's so funny. It even started when we were like dating. I remember I made sloppy joes or something because my husband liked it. And I was like so excited, like I had done this thing, it was already made for him. And I came home from work and he's like, "Oh, but you didn't have any buns." Okay. In my house, we ate sloppy joe between two pieces of white bread. My mom was not buying buns and bread. So that was like my own thing was like, okay, well, if you wanted buns, couldn't you have just gone to the 7-Eleven and got them? And he's like, "Oh, I just didn't feel like it." And I remember that and just being like, eh. And then my mother-in-law made a comment about it. Yeah. I was like, "Did he tell her we didn't have buns?" And so therein lies the start of the food scenario in my house, right? And um yeah, that was just the start of it. And there was a years, I'll never forget my mother-in-law buying me pots and pans and a crock pot and cookbooks. And this literally, we were like, I want to say the year that she had done that, we were married probably like 7 or 8 years, maybe longer. And I I'll never forget opening that gift and just seeing from the corner of unwrapping it with wrapping paper. Let me paint this picture. I have three children at home. I'm pregnant with my fourth. Like the whole cooking thing has really gotten rough, and I'm working. And I was just like, now I really hate cooking. Now I really hate cooking because this person is pushing it in front of me like this. Like now I really hate it. And so I don't think I unwrapped those pots and pans for 6 months, honestly. Um, and the crock pot, I don't know. I if I, I just I remember that so vividly. And so where I'm going with this one is fast forward to about 6 or 7 years ago. One of my clients, her mom is a caterer. You guys have heard me talk about this. And during the week, because catering events usually happen on the weekend, she cooks for families, 4 meals for four or 2 meal or 4 meals for two. And I started this and I remember feeling shameful about it, probably having to do with the whole mother-in-law situation and my husband's beliefs on food and all the things, right? My own personal bullshit coming right back at me because really he did not care as long as he had food to eat. And he's not very picky, Brad. I mean, he's not very picky in the sense that he's a plain eater, but he does appreciate a good meal. So I was like, I'm going to do this because I freaking hate cooking and this is going to solve all my problems. But I was like, I actually kind of, I didn't lie. I just didn't tell Brad that this is what I did. I just ordered it, bought it. It showed up in all these foil containers. And across the top, it said the heat up time. It's freaking amazing. Amazing, right? Like all I had to do was pay her and put it in my fridge and then take it out of the fridge and put it in the oven. Zero prep, zero grocery time, zero stress. And if you don't like it at this point, go eat a bowl of cereal, right? So Brad is eating this meal and he's got like the oil because it was like sausage and peppers and it's dripping out. He's like, "This is so good, so good." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I actually didn't make it." He's like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is amazing, but so and so's mom is a caterer and I bought all these meals for the week." And he was like, "Wait, you did what?" And at first I think he thought I was a bit crazy. And then I think he understood how much at ease it put me and how much time it allowed me to get other things done so that I was less stressed. Hello. So clearly, the cooking situation was a situation of burnout that needed to be addressed. It reignited everything for me, like gave me so much free time in my space to be able to focus in on the things that I like doing. Now, am I fortunate enough that we could afford to do this? Yes. And if that is something that you would like to do and you can afford it, you need to ask yourself, who do I need to become in order to do this? And that applies to everything and anything, right? Okay. So, scenario number two in business seems like in business, the maintenance, right? And so we can call the cooking the maintenance of the family, the maintenance of the business. The seventh year in both of my businesses have been the hardest year ever, right? The seventh year in the salon was COVID. Nothing that I could um, plan for or prepare for there. But I do think that it was 7 years coming to the boiling point with that, that made me realize that things were at burnout level and needed to be changed. Multiple things. The way that there was just so many things, and it not almost, it did take a flush of the business in order to find where the happy medium was, right? Like not even the happy medium, but like, okay, I'm going to claw myself out of this. And because I was so committed to the process and the system of having the salon, I had to figure it out. Like there we were for, a good, if I will tell you that year one in business is fun, it's happy, it's exciting, right? It's all the new things. Year two, you think it's going to be easier, but it's actually harder because everything that was fun and exciting is kind of dwindled down. And now you're into the weeds of it. And the miles are not the 4-minute miles or the sprint that it is in the beginning. They're starting to get longer and harder. And the 7 year mark was one of those 14-minute miles, or should I say, one of Jennifer's 30-minute miles, because of the way that things went down. But it kind of was like a building point of pressure of what I didn't know then, and I needed to know now in order to fix it so that it didn't burn down. And being committed to the process, I was like going to find a solution come hell or high water because I wasn't letting it go. And I did. It was hard. It was really a tough season to be in. And it wasn't a short one. It lasted a good 3 years, to be totally honest, because I had to rebuild a lot of things and I had to start over with new systems and processes. So, like, intentionally, it wasn't burnt down, but it was burnt down because the world was in a world pandemic. The government went insane. Like, all the shit just hit the fan with that one. And so the season became a very tough struggle. Now, to the other business, the extension line, happened to be like the biggest years of the extension line, which is super interesting because everybody was kind of like home and doing their thing, but they weren't willing to spend a lot of money on looking good, right? Zoom. um, and extensions really kind of exploded then. And so, by dumb luck, right? Like, here I had started this business. It was stressful. It was crazy because I'm doing business overseas with India, and we're trying to get this whole thing running. And, I knew how to run the salon, but that doesn't make me an expert at running a business that's totally outside of the spectrum of the salon. And two, it's kind of like when you're a hairstylist and you start a salon, it's just because you're a hairstylist does not mean that you should be a salon owner unless you're willing to learn and take a lot of classes, because there's so many other things than just doing hair. When you go from a hairstylist to a salon owner, you're like, can I just go back to doing hair because that was really fucking easy. And then when you become a salon owner, there's accounting, management, people that you're managing, more people that you're managing, and clients that you're dealing with that aren't even your clients or your screw ups that you are now responsible for, right? It's a lot of work. And, and oh, yeah, by the way, managing everybody's income and making sure that it's all working together. So then come along the extension line. Now you're doing business with India. What's fair practices? What's right? What's you're wiring money across the ocean on a hope and a prayer that it's coming back? Like, that business was really scary. And that business is not, we're now in the seventh year of that business. This year has been a really hard year for me in the sense with that business, like, and I think it becomes the shift, the learning curve, the system and processes that you started with that were very vague now have to be super honed in and have to become stronger. And trust me, I was in a big state of burnout with that business. And the miles, 30-minute miles, and you're like, "Whew, how do I get through this?" And I had a phone conversation with someone that I really respect. And she gave me such great information. And let me tell you, like, if you're a mom going through a tough season, you don't need someone to agree with you. You need someone to tell you, this is how it is, and it's going to get better. And these are things that might be helpful to you. If you're a salon owner, you need someone to tell you hard truths. And if you're struggling, right? If you're in the maintenance and your maintenance is not working, you need someone to be like, okay, let's get this rolling. And these steps will help you if you embrace them, or you're willing to take the education that's going to. So I have this conversation with this mentor. And it was interesting because the things that she shared with me about her struggles and her gains while I'm struggling helped me to see the other side, right? It helped to break me out of that burnout. And honest to God, also boredom. And so we said burnout is when you're 100% exceeded your capacity. And boredom is like, is this still aligned with my purpose? And business and family can be separated easily because family you can't walk away from. Business, you kind of can walk away from a business a little bit easier. And right, that kind of sounded funny, but it's totally true. And so when she was telling me this about things that had happened to her and what she had to do, I really had to sit there for a second and like pause and figure out how to get myself excited about it again. And I actually did. I actually did. I laugh like a nervous laugh like that because it's kind of one of those things where you're like looking in from the outside and you're thinking to yourself, well, shit, girl, you've got all these titles, you've got all this, you know, you've just been written up in Beauty Launchpad, and gosh, you should be so proud and all the things. And you are proud, but you're like, I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's getting into the thick of the hard, the thick of the maintenance, the thick of the repivot for more growth, right? Like that's where it's at. And I don't want to burn it all down. Oh my gosh, I've been drinking so much coffee. If you just heard me burp, totally sorry. So I had to sit back and ask myself better questions. I had to take her knowledge, her information, and soak it in and just feel it, right? I actually cried. I know you guys know that I've talked about being like this very non-crier, because I really had to take that pause and just figure out what I would create differently if I wasn't feeling trapped. And it came to me like a gust of wind, like just like whoo, it put light into my lungs, and it's given me motivation to keep moving forward. And I had to pause and reimagine the why of why I started. And that's how I did things with the salon. And that's how I did things with my kids too. When I would struggle, like, okay, it's not the perfect mom moment here. You're taking the family photo, you're screaming at them to smile and look happy. And the camera person's like, and somehow the photo turns out, right? Because you did the work on the front end to make everybody's outfits look so cute and adorable. It didn't matter that you were screaming at them. Um, and I know that's like a weird analogy, but it's kind of the same thing when it comes to business and when it comes to anything that's hard. It's always going to require work. It's always going to require maintenance, but you have to figure out what it is that becomes your purpose. And instead of pushing harder and doing more, you have to push softer and do less and dig deeper for your purpose so that you can sit back in creativity and realize where you were going wrong. Or maybe you weren't going wrong. You just need to repivot so that it realigns with you, right? And it is interesting that both of these times that were within my business become in the 7 year mark. It is interesting that my children are 7 years apart. And when I had the fourth, it was the 7 year mark of childhood in my home, right? Um, and they say that your body regenerates every 7 years, like that you have all new cells every 7 years. If you don't believe me, go ahead and Google it. Like you can literally rebuild your lungs. If you have bad lungs, like now totally woohoo, totally off topic, but if you really believe in it, you can fix it because those tissues regenerate every 7 years, right? So maybe it's the start over here on this lung and the start up here on this lung, but within 7 years, they're going to connect and it's going to be all new tissue. Nothing is impossible because everything has been made possible already, right? So fixing it just requires a different perspective, a different outlook, and a reimagined reinvention to get your spark back. So I'm not doing this podcast to scare you about the 7 year mark. I'm just doing this podcast to help you see the greater picture. The marathon starts with the first mile, the 14-minute mile, the 4-minute mile, or the 30-minute mile. But the more that you do it, you will get better. Maybe not in a marathon sense, but the like things will come easier, things you will be able to recognize better. Just like with the four kids, how I gave the analogy of kindergarten, like kindergarten for the second one is different than for the first, and this, that, the other, right? So if you treat everything in that sense of response, don't cry about what was, just move forward into what is. Sometimes that requires a couple of tears um, and a little bit of sweat to get to that point. But it's not just going to happen because you want it to. It will happen because you make it happen. You will either burn it or you will build it. And in my sense, I like the build more than the burn. I don't like a burn at all. And just reimagine your why in order to push you forward, right? The why is the biggest thing. Like, why did you want to get married? Why did you want to have children? Why did you want to start a business? Why did you want to start multiple businesses? Why did you want to start that Instagram account? Why did you decide you wanted to become a baker? Like, all those things, when you really think back to the original why, is going to give you the purpose to rebuild and become better at it. And you will learn along the way the steps that will remove you from working harder. It is, how does that go? Like, remove you from working harder and teach you how to work smarter in order to get to the outcome that you want. I hope this podcast helped you. And if it did, and you think it would help someone else, please share it with them. If you don't already, please subscribe. That helps this grow and helps other people see us. And I honestly love connecting with you guys. I hope that this information is for you today, what you needed to hear, what you wanted to hear. Maybe not what you wanted to hear, but what you needed to hear. Like I said, the mentor needed me to hear when she wasn't the yes girl. I didn't want the yes girl. I wanted the girl that was going to give me the real answers and the real advice that I would need to take me from burnout and boredom to reinvention. See you next time.